Hi, I'm going to take this opportunity to go over how to go about calculating a chase strategy versus a level strategy when given information about a given company's forecasted levels of demand, and how do you go about figuring out how many employees we should have for to meet a certain level of demand. Okay. Now, this question here reads, Archie Toys is a retailer operating in Wichita, Kansas. It experiences a seasonal demand pattern for its services. Labor requirements over a typical 6 months period are given below. So we're given the labor requirements over here. Okay. And we're told that, let's go to the questions here. They're given costs associated with wages, $800 per employee per month. The cost to hire work is $300. The cost to lay off a work is $200. Okay. The current workforce level is 9 workers. Undertime is paid for, and we're told calculate the cost of the strategy using a chase strategy as well as using a level strategy. Okay, so let's start with the chase strategy. And as you know, the chase strategy is where you're going to match your workforce level to your forecasted demand. Okay, so what that means is that if we needed 6 employees in month 1, we are going to hire 6 employees, right? So with the chase strategy, your numbers should match for the forecasted demand as well as for the workforce level. Okay. Next, I might want to know, is there any undertime or overtime? With the chase strategy, the answer is that there's no under or overtime because we hired exactly what we did. Okay. So that means that we're going to leave these cells here blank and move on to our derived section of the spreadsheet and try and figure out how much time is utilized. Okay. With your chase strategy, typically your utilized time would equal the number, whatever number of workers you have. Okay. So for the first month, we had 6 workers, then we increased that to 7, then to 12, then to 13, then reduced it to 8 and to 5, right? I'm just mimicking the numbers up here. But it also means that we have a whole bunch of hiring and laying off. So we started off with a total of 9 workers. That's what we're told here. So if we started off with 9 workers in December, but we only need 6 workers, it means we need to lay off 3 workers. Okay. Now, moving from January to February, we move from 6 employees to 7 employees. So that means that we're going to be hiring, and the hiring is a difference between 7 and 6. And I'll drag this all the way to the end. Okay. So we had 1 in February, we had 5 in March, we had 1 in April. Now I have a negative here. That means we're laying off 5 and laying off 3. And there's no hiring happening here. So I'll delete these. Okay. So with that, then I can now figure out how much is it going to cost us for the employees, for the regular wages, for hiring, for laying off employees. And that utilized time cost would equal your utilized number of employees, which is 6, multiplied by however much we're paying them for wages, which is $800 a month. Okay, so we're going to be paying $4,800 in January and a whole bunch of different amounts all through. Okay, my last column here is just the sum total of these costs. If you add them up, you get this here. Okay, so for over 6 months, we're going to pay $40,000 in wages. Okay, undertime cost, there was no undertime. We got the right amount of employees, so there's no undertime costs. Hiring costs, we did incur some hiring. It costs $300 to hire an employee, $200 to lay off an employee. So in January, we hired 0 workers, right? So our hiring cost here would equal 0 multiplied by $300. Okay, and that formula stays the same, so I'll include it all the way to the end. And for layoffs, it costs us $200 to lay off an employee. My cost, the number of layoffs, we laid off 3 employees in January. Gonna pay $200 for that. And I'll drag this all the way to the end. Okay. So if I add all those different costs up, the cost of this strategy over 6 months is $45,100. Okay. So I'll keep that in mind because I want to compare this to the next strategy. We are done with the chase strategy. That's all you need to do. Now let's compare this with a level strategy. Let's look at the second table I have here. Okay. So now we're going to be looking at the level strategy. And the level strategy, we're going to assume that we're going to keep the same number of employees all through all 6 months. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do with the level strategy is to try and figure out, one, what's the highest requirement in any of the months. I see a 13 over here. I'm going to need that to calculate W. Okay. The next thing that I need to know is how much are we paying for overtime? What does it say here? Do we have information on overtime? Typically going to have information given to you on overtime. Let me make sure I have that information. Okay. Suppose that overtime is allowed up to 25%. Okay, I need that percentage because for my calculation of W, I need to know what's the total maximum amount of time that an employee can work. And this will equal 13 divided by the total amount of time. You can work regular time, which is 100% of the time, plus the overtime, which is 25%. So the total amount of time that an employee could work maximum would be 125% of regular time. Okay. So with that, I get 10.4. With 10.4, I would round that up to the next highest number and say that our workforce level should be at 11. Okay. And that becomes my level number of employees. So the entire 6 months, we expect to have 11 employees. Okay. It means we might incur some undertime. We might also incur some overtime. Undertime, here's the difference between 11 and 6. Okay. And you can drag that all the way to the end. And the only time that this changes is if we have negative values, which is what I see here. That means that we're going to require overtime here of 1 employee, and we're going to require overtime with 2 employees' time here. Okay. All right, so we're done with our inputs. Now let's calculate our utilized time, our hires and layoffs. Our utilized time here equal our, in this case here, it's going to be the difference between the workforce level and the forecasted demand, whichever is smaller. Okay, so for January, we had 11 employees, but we only needed 6. So the smaller of these two values using the main function is 6. That's going to be my utilized time. Okay. Did we have any hires in January? I think we did, because we started off, the question said that we had 9 employees to begin with. Okay, the current workforce level is 9 workers, but we need 11 workers. So that means that we are going to need to hire, where are we? We are going to need to hire 2 additional workers in January. And then after that, we stay at 11 all through, so there's no additional hire. And there's no layoffs. Okay. Our utilized time cost will be a utilized time multiplied by the regular wages. And our wages here were $800 a worker. So this would equal 6 employees multiplied by $800 a month. Then our undertime cost, I need to figure out where did I calculate undertime. We have undertime up here. Okay, there were 5 employees who are underemployed, but we're still paying them the full wage. So this equals your undertime multiplied by the regular wage of 800. Okay. If they show up for work, they get paid. Okay. Now, the next thing that I need to figure out is how much are we paying for hiring? Because we hired 2 employees over here in January. So our hiring costs were $300 per worker. So my hiring cost for January here will equal 2 employees hired multiplied by $300. Okay. And there were no layoffs. So I think that captures all our costs. And now I can compare this value right here to what we calculated with the chase strategy, which was 45,000. Okay. So it's quite a big difference. The difference between the two strategies equals 53,000 minus 45,000. Okay. So the chase strategy ends up costing us $8,300 more than the level. Sorry, the level strategy costs 8,300 more than the chase strategy. So I would stick with the chase strategy because it results in a lower total cost. Okay, and now you can use that to answer the question. Okay, what's the cost of using a chase strategy? Which is 45,000. So greater than 44,000. That would be my solution. And then what's the cost of using a level strategy? In this case, here, it'll be less than or equal to 60,000. Okay, so that's all that I'm going to discuss right now. Hopefully that gives you some good input. Okay, have a great day.